What is going on, my friends? Today we're going to be modifying a Harley-Davidson Road Glide seat. It's the same seat for Street Glide and Electra Glide, and this seat happens to be 2009 to current. The way you could tell if you're like an 09 kind of guy, there was a split off where you had tabs in the front and you also had the open mouth on the bottom. If your motorcycle has the actual bracket tab coming off of it and your seat has a hole in it, that's the newer style. If your seat has a little metal tab coming off the front of it and your motorcycle has a hole in it, then that's the older style. We are going to get going and lower this seat, modify it. It's very common. Well, you can see the seats in the background there. Before we get started, if you are a returning friend, subscriber, thanks for coming back. And if you're new to our channel, welcome. Hope you enjoy what we're about to do. I'm Eddie Barrett with Atomic Cycle Works, a division of Atomic Auto Works, and we are a small restoration and customization shop located in New England. I don't know, let's get going. So you can see here, these two seats, one is the low seat and one is the not so low seat. So the customer brought in this seat here for an example because he wants that seat to be like this seat. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it apart. We're going to use our trusty dusty profile gauges, make sure the foam's the same, make sure the sides are the same. You can see here, this is a lot narrower than this one here. That's a lot beefier. So that pushes your legs out when you're trying to stand up, which is a huge difference. Now we can go further than this seat here, but we are going to do it exactly the same because that's what the customer asked for. Okay, so we're going to start off by removing the staples from this seat. And you always want to remember when you're removing staples to start from the inside and twist. We stick our staple remover underneath it and twist it. You don't want to start from this side and pry like this because you'll rip this side here, especially when you get close to the edges here. You could rip the edge of the seat. So we're just going to go through and remove all these staples, and we're just going to twist. Once they're up, we'll take our dikes, remove the staples, put them right in our hands, and they go right in the garbage. You do not want these to fall on your workbench. We usually strip these in a different location than where we do our final assembly, because if you have a staple fall on your carpet here, then you spin your seat, it could rip the cover. And like this one here, we're reusing the cover, so we definitely don't want to ruin it. Now that all the staples are out, we can take our cover off of it. Okay, let's go cut the foam up now. Okay, so now that we have this seat here, we could actually take some measurements. And you look at the side here at the seam, and we're roughly about 3 3/4 of an inch. So we're just going to come over here, put a mark at the seam at 3 3/4 of an inch, which really isn't that much lower. It's only about an inch lower. And what's funny about this seat, this one actually curves in, and this one here goes straight across. So if we were to take a measure from the seam here to the end, it's about 14 1/4. And if we measure here to here, it is 15 1/2. So ironically, this seat is actually further back than that seat, which is lower. And he wants to move this seat back. It's very strange sometimes. A lot of these Reach seats, for some reason, aren't the same. You actually could put a Reach seat on one bike and a Reach seat on the same exact bike, and it'll be totally different. And a lot of times the profiles are the same, but the height's different. So they must have them made by different manufacturers. But anyway, so this is a little confusing here because this one's actually further back than this seat, and he wants to go back a little further. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring it down to this height. We're also going to shave the sides in a lot here and see if we can mimic this profile. This is sometimes where it gets really confusing. Now, looking at the other seat, the other seat is actually about 2 inches farther forward than this seat. The customer said he really likes that other seat, but he wants the same profile, but this seat moved back, which is kind of weird because that seat's 2 inches forward. Basically, the measurement was like 14 1/4, and this was like 16 3/4. So it's a pretty big difference here. So I'm just going to cut this out and bring it down, because basically if you looked at his other seat, it came here and then goes down a little lower and then in. So we're just going to bring this down to that height like he wanted. We're going to narrow in the sides and then clean it up really good. I am going to bring it down a 1/4 inch lower and put a really better grade foam on top of there, but the height wise will still be the same as the other one. Cut in the front here because one of the big complaints we get is a lot of pressure up front here. So I'm going to cut this out and we're going to put a softer foam in there as well. This will give you a little bit more room to kind of scoot around in the saddle here. All right, so we're pretty close to where this shape mimics the shape on the seat there, and it's back a little bit. I'm actually not going to move this top part back just because it matches the profile of that seat, and we're already back farther than that seat. So now I'm just going to get this, we're actually just going to shape this with our grinder now. So we're just going to check out our profile gauge here. Looks pretty good. So we're following that same shape. Right now we got it pretty much as close as we're going to get it. This seat is wider, and since we're reusing the same seat, original seat cover, it's not going to be able to be exactly like this seat because this seat is sewn differently. But we do have this profile. We did narrow the sides and then did lower it to the right spec. So I'm just going to go through and put one layer of a comfortable foam on top of here, and then we're going to put a 1/4 inch sew foam on here and put it back together. Put one layer of this super comfortable foam on here. Okay, so we're nearing the end of this. I put one layer of 1/4 inch foam on here, and hopefully that'll be enough to reuse that original cover. Sometimes these seats need to be puffed up quite a bit in order to reuse the original cover because we took so much out of this seat. I did add some to the top of the seat here because by reducing this seat, the cover's coming down. Now by lifting this up, it should take in some of the slack of that seat, hopefully. So we got this all foamed up, and now we're going to put the cover together and see if it goes together. They had this big puffy foam on the front, and it takes a lot of the slop up. So sometimes when you modify these seats, it's a little bit difficult to make the original seat cover look good without that. I don't really want to put it on because it's going to puff up the seat and kind of defeat the purpose of having it lower and farther back. But we will try it out. Okay, so just like you've seen us do on some of our custom seats, what we're doing is we make sure the center of the seat's centered with the seat foam and pan. We're just going to put our first few staples in there. I'm not going to pull these yet because we want to try to get everything else tight first because we are going to be free floating this seat. Okay, so you can see here we have a lot more extra material left over. So the hard part is going to be reusing this cover and using this material without totally modifying the seat. You see this is free floated here right now. We're going to have to really pull that down. So we have a lot of heating and stretching. Normally I don't pull this flap down, but I am on this one just because we have a lot of material to move. So what I'm going to do is put this inside here, pull this over here, give it a little pull. Probably gonna have to remove those staples, but we'll just see for now. So I pulled it a little tighter. We still got this here to deal with, so I'm gonna try to really pull the sides in a lot right now. You see here how it's all puckered up there. We want to get rid of all that. So I'm actually going to remove some of these staples here that we put in. Walk this around a lot. Do the same thing to this side here. You can see how high this side is and how low, much lower this side is. It's almost touching the foam on this side, which is great. So now we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to get this nice and warm. Now, because I have to move so much material up here and over, what I'm doing is I staple it, then I'm going to remove a few staples and then stretch it a little bit more. If you try to do your full stretch in one shot, you could rip the material, rip the seams. So we just do this, put them in, take them out. I'm gonna warm it up. And honestly, right now, it's really not bad looking. Most of this is all taken up. I'm just trying to clean up this crack in the middle here where it has a tendency to want to wrinkle up because the seat wasn't designed to be this shape. One of the big things you have to be careful with these plastic seat pans is the seats are made to flex when you put them on the bike. So if you pull the front of the seat too much, it's just going to want to go back. So you got to be really careful. You do not want to pull it forward that way. So the funny part about modifying your factory seat versus buying the Reach seat is you actually get more room by modifying your factory seat. As you can see here, you know, the throw or distance from the tip of the seat to the tailbone and the tip of the seat to your cheekbone, you have way more room on your factory seat, which is really strange. Now we're just going to clean these both up and let you see the difference. So here's a side-by-side comparison, and you can see here the Reach seat is actually narrower and has a little bit more of a rake because it's farther forward. And then this seat now is lower, but it's further back. It has pretty much the same rake, but you have more back support.